So Josh Marshall, one of David's managers, has actually spoken out through the comment section of a TikTok video. And he made it very clear that all of the allegations that are circulating about him knowing anything, about him being involved in anything, is completely untrue and fabricated. He said, "This has been a tough time for my family as I am a father of 3 children. I received no emails and I am no one's roommate. I live full-time at home with my wife and kids. My daughter is 14 and this news is affecting so many lives. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything and I don't live in California. Also, I work remotely 95% of the time and my job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients." He mentions David's name and said that there's many others who work with him on a day-to-day capacity, but not him. He said, "This news is tragic for so many and for her family. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon. Let me remind people, a lot of this is speculation and alleged. In the meantime, I am with my family helping them emotionally get through the news of this tragedy."
Look at what David's done. He's written a song called Romantic Homicide. He's got this imagery with a shirt, right? He wrote a song about being obsessed with Celeste, right? People saw him with Celeste. What if, and I don't know, somebody said, what a great way of framing David.
So after all the wild theories and obsessive breakdowns, David's case just swerved in a direction no one saw coming. Out of nowhere, new evidence has surfaced, and it's not the kind that makes him look worse. In fact, it points to something people never considered, that he might not be guilty of murder at all. And here's where it gets even stranger. The person laying it all out isn't some random commentator, it's Harvey Levin, the founder and CEO of Tmz, a guy who has built an entire empire on getting stories before anyone else. And when you actually line up the points he presents, it starts to make a disturbing kind of sense. So here's the deal with the whole parking ticket thing Harvey brought up, because I know some of you are scratching your heads. David's car first gets flagged on August 26th for being in a spot it shouldn't have been. The very next day, August 27th, it gets slapped with a citation. People complain again on September 3rd, and by September 5th, the car finally gets hauled off. But here's what you've got to understand. The report on the 26th doesn't mean the car magically appeared that day. It could have been sitting there since the 23rd, the 24th, maybe even the 25th. To play it safe, let's say the 24th or 25th. Now here's where it gets crazy. David left for his US tour on August 5th. That's the very start of the month, and he didn't roll back until a whole week after the girl was even identified as Celeste. So technically, his car is out there gathering dust while he's hundreds of miles away performing shows, which makes the whole "he ditched the car to cover up a murder" angle sound way less airtight than people originally thought.
Okay, I want to open a can of worms here. By the way, we are working on something that could be really interesting. But I will tell you this. There is an impound report that shows that the car that had Celeste's body in it, that was parked on Doheny Drive, was first ticketed for being there. See, I thought it was going to be a few days before September 5th when it was towed. It was there since August 26th when it was first ticketed. And if it was ticketed, it must have been there even before that. So it seems like that car was parked on that street for 2 weeks. Let me tell you why that's significant. I lived on that street, on Doheny Drive. I don't anymore, but I did for a long time. And Doheny Drive is a residential street in the Hollywood Hills, but it is a well-trafficked street. A lot of people go up and down that Doheny Drive, and especially where that car was found. I am guessing, I don't know, but it was ticketed twice. And because I know that area. And when the street cleaner comes, if you keep your car there on street cleaning day, they'll ticket you. So I'm guessing that the 2 tickets were for street cleaning. So I think the car had to be there for at least 2 weeks. So the question, how is that car sitting there for 2 weeks? Was it sitting there with a body for 2 weeks? David left for tour August 5th. So let me just make an argument to you. Because I know a lot of you think, well, the walls are closing in on David, and David seems to be what you think is the suspect. The police have not named him as such. But here's the thing about that. If you were David, look at what David's done. He's written a song called Romantic Homicide. He's got this imagery with a bloody shirt, right? He wrote a song about being obsessed with Celeste, right? People saw him with Celeste, right?
Mm-hmm.
They saw him with Celeste.
Right.
And what if, and I don't know, somebody said, what a great way of framing David. What a great way of framing David. That you put a body of this girl that he was dating in his car and leave it there to get towed with all that evidence. Young Jackson is nodding yes.
I am nodding yes because this has been my theory for like the past week, and I've had people call me crazy. There is such a short window of time to where he could have killed her, dismembered her body, and left for tour.
He was gone August 5th.
He wasn't in the city. He wasn't in the city.
But here's the thing. Think about if he did it. You're going to leave a body in your car on a street for 2 weeks knowing eventually it's going to get towed and found.
Now here's another detail people keep skipping over. As one Twitter user pointed out, when the car was reported, the caller only mentioned a large tint, no mention of any odor, and that's where things start to get shaky. Because let's be real, how do you supposedly have a dead body locked in a trunk with zero smell? We're talking about decomposition here, the kind of stench you can pick up from 400, 500 meters away. But in this case, nothing. Then you've got people online going, oh, don't worry, the Tesla recorded everything. LAPD will just pull the footage. Like, no, bro. Teslas have cameras, sure, but they're not rolling 24/7 like some CSI fantasy. That would take insane amounts of storage, and cloud uploads aren't cheap either. So the idea that there's going to be a perfect 24-hour playback sitting on a hard drive, yeah, that's not how it works. And just to make this clear, because this Reddit user hit it right on the head, whether David did the murder or not is one thing, but that doesn't erase the fact that he was hanging around with a 13-year-old girl, allegedly involved with her in ways no adult should be. Even if the whole defense is, oh, she lied about her age, let's be real, at some point he knew. If the rumors about him paying people off in 2024 are even halfway true, then that means he found out her actual age and still kept seeing her. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. So, murder charge or not, David is not walking away clean, because no grown man has any business being involved with a preteen, and if it's not murder, then it better be something else, because this situation screams exploitation of a minor at the bare minimum. And here's where it gets even messier. Tmz reported that people who used to party with David, hang around him, literally thought Celeste was his girlfriend. Not just some fan, not a kid tagging along, but girlfriend, as in couple. They'd go to parties together, they'd hang out, and everyone in his circle was under the impression they were dating. So when it came out that Celeste was only 14, everyone close to him was shocked. And think about that for a second. If the people around you, the ones who see you day to day, already think you're in a relationship with a minor, that tells you how far gone the situation was. Because even being friends with a kid at that age is already unacceptable, but to be publicly seen as a couple, that just screams predatory behavior, which is why, like I said before, even if he somehow slips past the murder charge, the exploitation angle is right there staring everyone in the face. And it gets even darker. According to reports, people in David's circle were under the impression that Celeste was a USC student, 19 years old. That's how she presented herself. Now, whether David made her do that or she came up with it on her own doesn't even matter, because either way it's wrong. Think about it. Why would you ever put a 14-year-old in a situation where she feels she has to pretend she's a college student just to be around you? That's not just a red flag, you got a whole red flag parade. Because no matter how you look at it, the fact that a minor has to lie about being an adult just to justify being in your life says everything. It's messed up on every possible level. So apparently this morning, a Reddit user claims he was walking near David's place, spotted something shiny under the leaves, and boom, finds out what looks like a Tesla key card in the gutter. He posted up like, yo, what if this is David's key? Now instantly the comments go wild. Half of them are screaming turn it into the cops, which he says he did. Others are trying to spin it into proof that maybe someone else was moving the car for David, or even that someone stole his Tesla, killed Celeste, and tried to frame him. But let's be real here, this doesn't prove a thing. For one, there's no way to even authenticate that card. It could be his, it could be someone else's, or it could just be some random dude fishing for clout with his own Tesla card. And here's the real kicker, police already did a full sweep of David's house and the area around it. They're not sloppy, they're trained for this. If there really was a Tesla key card lying in plain sight under some leaves, you think a random Reddit stroller is gonna find it before for LAPD? Yeah, not buying it. So bottom line, this whole mystery key doesn't clear David, doesn't pin him either. It just adds another layer of noise to a case that's already drowning in speculation. Now here's a clip of an investigator addressing the one question everybody keeps asking about the David case. The people still defending him always fall back on this. Who would be dumb enough to kill someone and then leave the body in their own trunk? And the investigators answer, a lot of people, especially first-time murderers, especially if they're stupid and are f***ing with kids. He flat out says that rookie killers do a ton of stupid shit. And yeah, one of them is exactly that, putting the body in their own car. At first it sounds insane, but when you think about it, it actually makes sense. Killing someone isn't some calculated Hollywood style move. It's sloppy, it's panicked, it's stupid by definition. If you're reckless enough to take a life, you're definitely reckless enough to screw up after. And the one thing most murderers have in common, they always make mistakes. And those mistakes are usually what get them caught. So when you put it that way, it's not impossible at all that David could have made the same mistake. And honestly, trying to sit here and break down his motive feels pointless, because the bigger picture is already disturbing enough. This was a grown man in a relationship with a 14-year-old. That alone tells you how unstable this dude really was. Now, outside of the parking ticket timeline and the Tesla key drama, Reddit's been flooded with theories, and this one honestly stands out. A user pointed out that David didn't live in isolation. He had an entire entourage, people who stayed with him, partied with him, and yes, that included Celeste. So what if, while David was away on tour, Celeste was with that crew, things got heavy, drugs were involved, and she overdosed. In a panic, instead of calling it in, they stuffed her body in David's car. That way, he'd end up taking the blame and they'd walk free. It would explain why there was zero urgency to hide the body somewhere, because to them, the car already painted David guilty by association. Now, to be clear, this is pure speculation, no evidence yet. But here's why the theory isn't completely wild. Forensics so far haven't reported signs of blunt force trauma or external injuries, things you'd normally see and detect right away, which makes an overdose look far more plausible than, say, a violent attack. And when you remember Celeste's troubled past, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she partied too hard, things went sideways, and others decided to shift the weight of the fallout onto David, especially since everyone already knew he was tied to her in ways that were already unacceptable. Again, it's speculation, but it's an angle worth keeping in mind. Now here's another clip from TMZ, and Harvey makes it clear he's not picking a side. He's not saying David did it, he's not saying he didn't. What he is saying is that right now, everything is still just theory. There's one theory that David killed her, and there's another that he didn't. And Harvey even points out, if by some chance David didn't do it, then wow, this is one hell of a setup, because the way things line up from the car being parked where it was, to the questions about whether it was moved, who moved it, whether he has paid someone or someone else did it all together, it all leaves a lot of room for speculation. But at the end of the day, it's the police who are going to sort that out, not Reddit threads or Twitter detectives. Still, Harvey's right about one thing. If David is innocent, he's basically the perfect person to frame. And that's only because of the situation he put himself in. Because no matter how you spin it, there's one question that doesn't go away. Why was a grown man hanging out with a child in the first place? And here's another clip that really matters. The gist of it is simple. They still can't find a cause of for Celeste, because if it was something physical like a stabbing, strangulation, or blunt force trauma, they'd already know. That stuff shows up immediately. But it's not that, which means the only thing left to give us answers is the toxicology report. Until that comes in, nobody actually knows what killed her, and that single detail is what's keeping the entire case in limbo right now. Now here's another Reddit post that's worth reading. When the story first broke, I honestly thought he was headed for a death sentence. Abusing and a young girl is absolutely insane. The more I think about it, and the more comes out, however, and I hate to say this, but I think he may actually do the impossible and escape with a light sentence. There is definitely a reason he hasn't been arrested yet, and why the police haven't said yet that this is a murder investigation despite Celeste's autopsy being done many days ago now. From the info coming out, it seems very possible David can argue he wasn't in the vicinity when Celeste died. She was in the car for a minimum of 10 days, and the exact time of death is not exactly known. David has been on tour, and his lawyers can use the timeline to his advantage. And if it is true that she wasn't murdered but rather died from a drug overdose, then that takes a murder charge off the table. The question is, who tried to dispose of her body? Who gave her the drugs? People seem to make it seem like it was just David and Celeste in the story, but as a young music superstar, he had a whole entourage around him. There were many people around who all had a part in this story, and as the investigation goes on, they will start pointing fingers. Clearly, very irresponsible behavior was going on here by a number of people. People have already confirmed they saw them doing drugs, and a group of teens and young adults in a $20,000 a month mansion getting high as a recipe for disaster. Then the PDF charges. It seems obvious to everyone that David was acting very inappropriately with this young girl, but then again, R. Kelly, Diddy, and many others were clearly acting very inappropriately, but still managed to beat the charges. R. Kelly even abused the girl on tape, and it still wasn't enough to convict him. David's lawyers will say they were simply friends, and even if she was living with him, there were a bunch of other people living with him too, and she was simply part of his entourage. Without physical proof or the victim herself being able to give testimony, it won't be as easy to get him on this as you think. All the posts, blurry pictures, alleged text messages, comments from randoms on Discord, most of that won't be able to be used in court or will be dismissed as hearsay. Now there is still David's phone to be searched, Celeste's phone, and statements to be made from other people close to this case. There's a lot more to come here in terms of evidence, but purely based on what we know so far, I think people are being premature thinking this is an open and shut case. And even Aiden Ross has something to say about all this. He was on a call with Charleston White, who tried to defend the situation with one of the dumbest takes imaginable. How can you prove they were having intercourse? Aiden's response, perfect. He just shoots back. Okay, so what, they were just playing Fortnite? And honestly, that's the only right reaction, because come on man, how are you even trying to justify this? Even if by some stretch nothing happened, just the fact that David was hanging around with a 13-year-old girl is already wrong. No adult has any business doing that, and when people close to David admit they were under the impression she was his girlfriend, you don't get that vibe from just being platonic. You only get that impression if there's behavior that makes it look like a relationship. So whether they did something inappropriate or not, which let's be real, they probably did, the point doesn't change. Him being around her at all was wrong, and it's wild that people are still trying to twist themselves into knots to defend it.
Okay, but Unc, what about the vivid video of him and the 13-year-old linking up?
So, how can we prove they had sex for intercourse?
What were they doing, Unc? Playing Fortnite, bro? Come on.
No, listen. Me and you know that. The police know that.
Oh, I see. You're talking about the police. How do you prove it? I see.
Still the evidence to convict him.
Okay, so we gotta just wait and see what happens, bro.
All I keep telling everybody, but why would they let a black man in America? If we really believe the police is against us, that we're going through injustices, what black man gets to walk around in America and tour as a millionaire when all the evidence says he's guilty? They let Diddy do it.
That's true.
So I'm saying, homie, maybe somebody else killed this kid because he even went to the police station to talk to the police.
And now, as always, it's time to get the internet's verdict on the entire situation. He's definitely going to jail, even if he beats it. His career is ruined because he was a young child. It happened around his home and he wrote these songs about that young child. Rest in peace, Celeste. And honestly, that's the brutal truth. Even if he somehow sidesteps the murder charge, his image is finished. The second people connect his name to a 13-year-old girl, it didn't matter what the courts decided. You can't write explicit songs, have that kind of relationship floating around, and then expect the world to just shrug it off. His career isn't bouncing back from that. He's going to jail. If you believe he's innocent, you might have actually lost your mind. Because at this point, defending David takes some serious mental gymnastics. With all the red flags piled up, to still be shouting he's innocent is basically the same as covering your ears and pretending reality doesn't exist. So to sum up, David is caught in one of the messiest scandals imaginable. His car gets tied to the case, reports and tickets stack up, but the timeline doesn't line up cleanly since he was already on tour. Forensics haven't shown blunt force trauma, which points more toward an overdose, and Reddit is flooded with theories about his entourage, framing setups, and even random Tesla key finds. But none of that erases the fact that he was a grown man spending time with a 13-year-old girl. Whether he's guilty of murder or not, his career and reputation are already wrecked. The Toxicology report is the only thing that'll settle how Celeste actually died, but in the court of public opinion, David's already finished.